Could you imagine if I'd hit that thing? Death by cow? Death by cow strike? Oh my God. And so you see, that was the day that I figured out that you should never trust a man who wears knee-high socks, wears short shorts, and drives a Honda CR-V. Okay? Those three things in combination, you're going to want to look out for them. You're going to want to avoid those kinds of men. All right? Learn from your auntie. Okay? If you ever listen to anything I say, it's those three things. Yep. 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 Anyways, hi everybody. Welcome. Happy April 1st, or should I say April Fool's Day. This is Faux Podcast. I'm your host, Mick McKay, and this is the podcast where on the first Wednesday of every month now, we talk about embarrassing stories and embarrassing things. And I also just talk to you about stuff. So what's up? What's new? It's been a couple weeks. What have you been up to? What have you been reading? What have you seen? What have you done? I'll tell you what I've done. I'm a mommy. I'm a mommy. I'm a mother. I'm a mother to a sourdough starter named Sylvie. Yeah. Yeah. Did I get you for a second? April freaking Fools, dude. Yeah, I've started this new hyperfixation on bread and making bread because my best friend also is in her bread bread baking era. And she got me on this shit, and now I'm locked in, and I'm frustrated, and it hasn't been going great, but we're we're doing it, and we're not giving up, okay? We are not giving up because my worst habit is that if something doesn't go perfect, like from the get-go, I usually abandon it immediately and try and go on to the next hobby, project, whatever, to try and emotionally redeem myself rather than putting work into building something and growing my talent and working through with effort. And I'm done. I'm done doing that in my life. I'm over it. From now on, we put our heads down and we work. We work hard for our bread. Okay? I've made 2 loaves thus far. The first was a major flop, inedible almost even, I'll say. Um, it came out slightly raw. It did not rise, and it was dense. It was dense. My husband ate a lot of it though, which I don't think was good for him. Second loaf though, it rose a bit. The bulk fermentation really did happen. Not as much as it should have probably. And it was a little underproofed. It was edible, but it was a little gummy. Not the best it could be. She wasn't as airy as she needs to be. But Sylvie, you know what? She's new to the world. She's finding her legs. We're working together, and it's going to be fine. What was I talking about? I'm feeling just like whimsical today, dude. The weather is finally getting a little better. It's not perfect. I think we're still going to get an April snow here in Western New York, but it's in the 60s this week. Listen to this. I woke up this morning to a thunderstorm. Thunder and lightning, mind you. Huge thunder and lightning. The kind that it's like, it's really nice and it's really relaxing, but there are a couple cracks in there where you're like, should I be scared? That was what I woke up to. Pouring rain. Okay. Oh my God. I got out of bed. I opened the windows. I lit my candles. I had my little drink. I sat down at the computer, played my little games, did my little things, wrote my little emails, all while the window. Oh, it was perfect. And then I ate my fresh bread with some jam. Girl, we're totally cozy maxing. And I'm wearing bloomers right now. You can't really see, but I'm wearing bloomer pants. What the fuck is more whimsical than that? Nothing. So, yeah, we're really in our whimsy kind of like space today, and it's feeling really good. It's a pleasant, warm change from the nasty, harsh winds of depression that were felt a few weeks ago, or for the past, I'd say 5 months. Oh, reading, watching updates. I am currently reading two books that I am really enjoying. I'm reading a physical and I'm listening to a book. The physical book I'm reading, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, I think is how you say it. Fab. I'm loving it. I'm not going to get too into it because I'm only about a quarter of the way through it. Like the spooky stuff hasn't even really started happening yet. And then I'm listening to a book it's called Girl on Girl: How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves by Sophie Gilbert. And it's insane. It's a nonfiction, obviously. I usually like to, if I'm listening to an audiobook, I like it to be a nonfiction book. I'm usually listening to something in the nonfiction category almost always. And I'm about halfway through it, and it primarily looks at the impact that pornography has had on pop culture and just like how women exist and present themselves. And like, it's actually extremely disturbing. And it's like, but it's fascinating. And I don't want to speak about it too much. I'll probably talk about it more when I do finish it. But right now, it's just like, I'll say it's so interesting. It is so infuriating and frightening. And I've been recommending it to every single woman I know. So get on that. Okay. Well, we might as well do it. Let's get into the ick of the week. In the spirit of April Fool's Day, the ick of the week is pranks, people who pull them, families who consider themselves prank families, those couples that have like prank YouTube, prank vlogs, and their whole relationships are basically just built on inflicting mental turmoil on one another. I am so happy that I was never inducted into any kind of prank family, prank friendship, prank sphere. Thank God I didn't marry into a prank family. They like my husband's family, he's got 3 siblings, shout out siblings, um, that, like, they, like, mess with each other, you know? They, like, flip each other upside down and stuff, but they're not pranksters, like, regularly plotting against your family to fool them or to have, like, a "Ha ha!" kinda like, "Psych!" moment. It's a lot of energy that I'm not interested in inviting into my life. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessary. One of the only pranks that I have pulled in recent history was, I think, a year or 2 ago. I got home from something. My friend dropped me off, and I came home pretty drunk. It was, like, after, I think, like, a Christmas party or gala or something. I don't know. And when I got home, I could hear my husband was, like, in the bathroom. So I made a bunch of noise signaling that I was home, but then I hid in our closet. And I just sat there, and I could hear him walking around looking for me because he had obviously, like, heard me fumbling about the apartment, but then he, like, didn't see me anywhere. And so I sat in the closet for, like, 20 minutes, and then I scared him, and that was it. That was the whole prank. And I haven't felt called to engage in any prankery since. I don't know. Oh, and you know why I think I actually don't really fuck with pranks is because one time I did pull a prank on my dad when I was pretty young. I feel so bad about it. It was his birthday. I had to be like maybe 10, 11. And I thought I didn't get him anything for his birthday. I was a child. I didn't have money. Are you kidding me? But I thought it would be really funny to make him think I did get him a gift. And I took his baseball cap that he wore like every single day and I put it in a box and I wrapped it. And then after cake, I like gave him this gift. And oh, just thinking about it makes me sad. I remember him looking kind of like touched and excited that I'd gotten him something. And when he opened it, he was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck, Mackenzie?" And I felt so bad. I think he was really touched that his daughter had gotten him a gift. And I was just a little shit. So I've felt bad about that ever since I did it. And I've gotten my dad many actual new baseball caps and hats since then. Thank you very much. But it still hurts. Still hurts. It was a dirty deed I did. Didn't like it. Mm-mm. So pranks, not a fan. Let it be known that if you pull any pranks upon me or my family, upon my house, a plague will come for you. Because I'm a prank hater, I thought it would be fun today to read some stories about pranks gone wrong. So I'm going to read a couple from Reddit, good old Reddit, and then I got one right in about a prank gone wrong. And then I'm going to round it out with a good old classic embarrassing story. Not prank related, just something submitted by a dear listener. Okay, let's get into it though. Okay, let's start with this one. This is a shorty. Somebody on, and this is just from the Ask Reddit, like an Ask Reddit thread that was like, "What's a prank? What's a prank that you did that went so wrong?" Something like that. So this individual writes, as a prank or a dare, some kids opened a pasture gate on a local farm, thinking it would be fun to scare a herd of 80 plus cows. Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there. Eight? That's a lot of fucking cows. How many cows usually live in like one bunch? Is it like that many? I'm from Wisconsin. I should know this. What is the typical number of cows that one owns when they run like a dairy farm? Oh, that's a bad idea. So, it worked. The cows stampeded out of the gate and started charging through the backyards of the surrounding residential neighborhood, trampling people's gardens, knocking down fences, and ripping clothes off the line as they went. It took the combined police force and fire department staff to get the cows back into the pasture. Oh my God. And then somebody said, any charges against the kids are related? And somebody said, moving violation. That's funny. I would be so pissed if I was the townsfolk because cows, what? Hey, hi. Cows are huge and actually quite dangerous when provoked, I think. I was always afraid of them. I think they're beautiful creatures. Oh, I love a bovine gaze. I love their beautiful faces, their fuzzy little nose and their gorgeous eyelashes. They are divas, they are queens, they're ethereal beauties, but they're also beasts. Okay, they're big beasts. They can fuck you up. My grandmother lives in like the middle of Amish territory in Wisconsin, like way out in the rural dairy farm land, Wisconsin. And a few years ago, I think it was my sister and I were driving out there, and I remember we drove by a dairy farm with a huge hole in the fence, and we were like, "Oh, looks like the cows got out." And then we crest this hill and I slammed on the brakes because there's a fucking cow in the road. Could you imagine if I'd hit that thing? Death by cow? Death by cow strike? Oh my God. Okay. This individual Redditor writes, I was the closing cook at a pizza joint. Had a prank war going with the overnight janitor. If there is going to be a prankster, it's going to be a kid that works at a pizza place. Okay. Those are the only people. Those people and then gas station attendees are the only people in my book who I think have a pass and should be allowed to regularly engage in prankery. Okay. So I started by freezing his mop into a bucket of water in the walk-in freezer. He countered by soaping the floor by the locker room. We went back and forth for a couple of weeks. It was relatively good-natured. Then, one day leaving work, I found he had tied some cans on a rope to my exhaust pipe. Would have been funny, but I had to turn sharply to exit my parking stall and drove over the rope, which ripped out the exhaust system of my truck. Oh, that sounds expensive. I countered a few nights later by loosening all the lug nuts on his wheels. Dangerous! I really loosened them until they were almost off, wanting him to discover it before it got too far. Never trust that that's how it's gonna go. Apparently, he was on the freeway when the vibration was so bad he spun out. Holy shit. Luckily, it was... they did military time. Oh, 4 in the morning. So it was a single vehicle accident with no contact made, but his wheels and studs were ruined. Cops came to my house that afternoon asking me if I knew anything about it. I denied it, but did talk about the pranks and my exhaust system. They said janitor boy said he had a video of me doing it. I asked to see it. Smartphones were brand new then. Few people had them, but he didn't have a video. Then the janitor boy said he saw me do it, at which point I asked why he didn't stop me and didn't check the wheels before he left. Okay, period. Like, that is point. That is point. If you saw me do it, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you say nothing? We all reached an impasse with strong circumstantial evidence, but no real evidence. The cops suggested we consider the prank war a draw and grow the fuck up before somebody got killed. We agreed it was good advice. Period. Yeah, great advice, actually. And also, what the fuck is the statute of limitations on this crime you committed? Because you just confessed on Reddit. There's the evidence. You've got a confession, brah. Don't be confessing your crimes here. Don't confess your crimes on the internet, guys. Come on. Grow up. Let's do one more little Reddit tale and then we'll go on to the write-ins, okay? This person writes, when we were younger, I convinced my brother to climb in the dryer during a game of hide and seek. If this ends with that kid dead, I'm gonna be pissed. I assured him that there was no way I would ever find him if he hidden it. He stupidly believed me, and as soon as he was in there, I shut the door and turned it on. I had intended to pull the door open right away, and no harm done. The problem was, the dryer was incredibly old, and I didn't know the door wouldn't just open. You had to turn it off first, and the lock would disengage? I don't know, but I yanked the door, and to no avail. And in sheer fucking panic, started yelling for my mom. He went round a few times and was a little banged up by the time my mom came running in. Basically, she killed me right then and there. I never did anything like that. Again. I would hope not. What the fuck? So, yeah, just PSA to any of you Gen Alpha listeners, don't put your siblings in the dryer. And also, why did you say he stupidly believed you? That it sounds like your brother was like a baby. Like, baby logic doesn't, they're not stupid, they're learning. They don't know that what you tell them is dangerous or untrue. Oh, that just made me sad. Okay. Listener story numero uno of the day. This is from Juicy Lucy, she, her, Minnesota, kind of. Um, the subject is my trauma. And there is a trigger warning that says barf. So we're gonna get through this together. I'm hoping it's not bad, but we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. Juicy Lucy writes, hi Mick. I listened to one of your episodes where the person who wrote in said that they accidentally made a cake with salt instead of sugar for their dad's birthday. Classic. And it made me think of one of my most traumatizing memories. Plus, with April Fool's Day around the corner, this story feels like it holds relevance. Let's go back to probably 2007 or 2008. I'm somewhere around 2nd or 3rd grade and April Fool's Day is approaching. I was a pretty well-behaved kid and my sister, about 2 years younger than me, had asked me if we should pull a prank on my parents in the spirit of the holiday. I agreed and mulled over options for many hours, at least 6. 6 hours. Finally, I landed on a classic rubber band around the handle of the sink sprayer so that whoever first turned on the sink would get an unexpected shower. Easy, relatively harmless, hilarious. What could go wrong? Well, that fateful April 1st morning, my sister and I sat with tense anticipation at our kitchen island over our cereal bowls, awaiting to see which parent would fall prey to our prank. My dad, hurrying around the kitchen as he readied to leave for work, would be the chosen one. Taking one last big swing of his coffee, he turned on the sink to give his mug a quick rinse before leaving. Only the impact of the sprayer took him so by surprise that he jumped and began choking on his coffee. My sister and I looked on in horror as he coughed and choked, the sprayer still gunning him down, soaking him as he leaned over the sink. He even coughed so hard he threw up a little bit. We had never seen our father in such a state of distress. My sister began uncontrollably screaming and sobbing beside me as I watched, wide-eyed, in a state of utter shock, shame, and fear. I had wielded my power inappropriately. I had never felt more disturbed. My dad, finally breathing again, turned off the sink and slowly turned around to face us. After a few moments of quiet, he began laughing. At least he was a good sport about it. But the whole thing was so horrifying to me that I never pulled another prank again. Love, Juicy Lucy. Okay, question number one. Question number one. How powerful is the water pressure at your childhood home? And how can I get on that? Because when I feel like when I use my little sink sprayer in my apartment, it's like so weak, it can barely it's barely functional. So like the fuck is up with your water pressure? And also relatable in that it is really terrifying to see your parents so like overcome by something so unexpected and to feel it's reminding me of this one time that I watched my dad. My dad, for some reason, he decided it would be a good idea to take his like morning pills with a cup of coffee and he totally choked on them. And I just never like you see your parents choke on something for the first time and it fucks you up. That was a great story, and also, it really should have been kinda harmless. That's one that's it's supposed to just be a little bit inconveniencing, but that really, like, snowballed. We have one more tale from a listener, and this is one that I don't think has anything to do with pranks. I didn't read it all the way through. This one is from Lost Mermaid in Maryland. What I wanna say to you listeners is, what the fuck do y'all know about getting stood up by a mermaid? Okay. I got a lot I could tell you about that another time. So Lost Mermaid writes, I love this podcast. Okay, gas me up, gas me up. She says, as a religious podcast listener, you have the correct voice and vocal inflection for this job, so thank you for sharing it with the world, period. She also says she would love if Brady read a story at some point. And that is noted. I will be incorporating that feature at some point here. Yes, I will get him on the podcast. So she says, I should start by saying I don't get embarrassed easily, but this is one topic that my boyfriend is not allowed to bring up, even though it's objectively hilarious. The story. My spring semester of my freshman year of college, I started to put myself out there with men. I tried out Tinder, TBT, and met up with a couple of guys for subpar sexual encounters. Around April, my friends and I were studying for finals, and a guy, let's call him Nate, from another local university said he would come over in the middle of the day to hook up. I said great and left my friends, one of whom was my roommate, to embark on this adventure. I texted my roommate that a guy was coming over to take a nap, so if she could study a little longer, that would be great. Anyway, Nate arrived at my dorm, panting and sweaty, and I was like, what's wrong with you? Nate tells me he ran from his university to my dorm. Friends and colleagues, the distance between our schools was a minimum of 6.5 miles. No, Uber was still a year out from being available in our small-sized city, so as a freshman with no car, I suppose his options were limited, but it still rightfully gave me the ick, yeah. 6.5 miles is crazy. After some of the worst sex I had had up to that point in my life, which is saying something, we cuddled for a bit, which I was stressed about because he was still sweaty from his 10K to get that pussy. He left soon after, and we didn't talk or see each other ever again. 2 years later, I met my current boyfriend who went to a high school very close to where I went to college. One day, probably a year into our relationship, I'm on Facebook. Side note, I feel like all of these references are making me sound old as fuck. Twin, no. I see you. I see you. Zillennial. It's fine. And I see in my friend recommendations the sweaty Nate. His profile picture was the same photo that he had used on Tinder. The man's one good photo, one passable photo. I see that one of Nate's mutual friends is my current boyfriend. I ask my boyfriend, "How do you know this person?" He says, "Oh, we went to high school together. He was an interesting, derogatory guy." My boyfriend asked me why I wanted to know, and I was immediately brought back to the sunny but chilly day in April 2016 when instead of studying for finals, I hooked up with a guy who ran two 10Ks for probably 5 minutes of action. I told my boyfriend the story and he thought it was hilarious. It was. And I said we will never speak of it again. We haven't. Last year, my boyfriend was invited to his 10-year high school reunion. He didn't go because we were out of town, but I still cringe at the idea of him someday having to interact with his bosom buddy, Nate. Okay, thanks so much for reading this. It was kind of therapeutic to write it, although I still want this to go to the grave with me. I'm thinking about all the guys in my life, my dear friends who are men, and how many of them probably would have been that guy that ran 6.5 miles to go see a lady. And I'm disturbed by the amount of my friends that I'm like, oh, I bet he would do that. You know who you are. You know who you are. Lost Mermaid, that was fantastic, though. Really excellent. And also, April 2016, hey, this is the decade anniversary, a trauma anniversary, if you will. Okay. I loved all the stories today. Please continue to write in. I'm trying to think of what we should do for May. Oh my God, May. What would be a fun topic for May? Graduation, college. Let's talk about embarrassing stories that happened to you in college for May. Oh God, I have one. I have one. Maybe I'll write up my own and read it for the next one. But I would love to hear humiliating college stories, college graduation, freshman week. Let's hear all of it. 'Tis the season, baby. Let's do it. If you do want to write into the show, you're just going to send your story into fauxpodshow@gmail.com. That's FAUXPODSHOW@gmail.com. Please include your name, can be a fake name, your pronouns, where you're from. Give it a sassy little subject line if you so please. I love it when you do that. Stay classy, stay trashy, and remember, it's not that deep. Bye.